Hello, namaste. It is now time for our meditation for the first Sunday of each month. This process of meditation always begins the same way, breathing. We inhale, we exhale. We inhale, and we exhale. We inhale, and we exhale. We continue to breathe. And we allow that breath to help anchor us in this present moment. When we are anchored, it is easier for us to be in alignment with that which is more life-affirming, declaring a more life-affirming way of acting, thinking, emoting, our entire mental equivalent. And when we are not anchored, when we tend to waver, we are still aligned, but it is not in a life-affirming manner. It is actually a life-denying. So we allow this breath to anchor us more deeply to our center, to be aligned with that. Before we focus on our breath, our mind may be racing, the busyness of life, the things to do, all of the checklist items. But meditation allows us to quiet that busyness. It sets it aside, and later we can bring it back if we choose. But for this moment, we set that aside, all of the busyness, all of the to-do, and we focus on the breath. For this moment, right now, the breath. And whenever thoughts do pop up, we notice them, we observe them, but we do not become obsessed or addicted or attached to them. We simply notice them and let them go by. We focus on the breath. When we are aligned in the most life-affirming manner, it is an automatic that our life experiences begin to change, our individual experiences and our collective experiences. But simply in this moment, we breathe. We let ourselves know and become aware of the here and the now. This moment, and this moment, and this moment, we breathe. Now, if you are comfortable, we are going to try some box breathing where we count 5. For example, Inhale for a count of 5. Exhale for a count of 5. Hold for a count of 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. And we continue with that process. 5 for an inhalation, 5 for a hold. Exhale, 5. Hold for another 5. That's the box breathing technique. Now, if 5 is tough for you, then do 4 or 3. If 5 is too easy for you, then try 6. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold, or 7 or 10. Whatever is most comfortable for you. So for this moment, we do that type of breathing on your own. And when our breathing continues, during the Sunday message, which begins shortly, we allow our mind, our heart, our spirit to remain open. The breath continues. We become more receptive, breathing in so many different ways as we let our understanding of the teaching, science of mind and spirit, to become a part of us. We embody the teaching. We are rooted in the teaching. And when we are deeply rooted, we need not think about breathing. We simply breathe. We don't think about being aligned. We simply are aligned. We proceed from that space. We don't have to think about forgiveness. We simply forgive. It simply happens. Same with love, joy, grace. When any number of spiritual principles are deeply rooted within us, we embody that. Our lives will be different, be more expansive. Our consciousness changes. Our consciousness must evolve. It must grow. It must expand. So this meditation, which is coming to an end, gives way to our continued breathing, continued opening of mind and heart. The entire process continues. Even during the message, our mind, our heart, our soul, our spirit still remain open, still remain receptive, still evolve. And it doesn't matter what activities, whether cleaning, washing dishes, doing laundry, whatever activities we are engaged in, we understand that that is not separate from spiritual practice like meditation or journaling, but that driving through traffic is spiritual practice. It can be when we understand and our mind is open and our heart is open, our consciousness is open. It is then that we realize that everything is spiritual practice. Everything is a spiritual experience. That is when we are walking the walk. So we inhale and we exhale. We breathe. All that God is, each one of us right now must be. That which God is incarnating in, through, and as each individual. God is showing up throughout the multitude of all that is. All of the various people, colors, animals, all of it is an expression and individualization of God. Everything, God. Various and yet still one. Multiple and yet still one. I am that one. God is that one. You are that one. There is only that one. And what is true for me is true for everyone watching, everyone engaging in this meditation, and even those who are not. God is all, period. So this meditation is like our reminder. I am. I am. I am that which is God. I am that. That which is sacred and holy. I am that. That which is the law says, yes, it receives and it acts accordingly. And so this meditation is prayer. Everything becomes prayer based on how we engage in it. Our lives become the very activity that is prayer. Our lives become our amen, our ashe, our aho. Amen. And so it is. Aho. It is done. It is finished. Thank you and much love. Our Sunday message will begin momentarily. So you have time for a bio break, to get a snack, something to drink, and we will see you soon. Love you. Namaste.
Hello and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, a Centers for Spiritual Living teaching center. I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson. I am the founder and the spiritual director. Now, as you are sitting there joining us, you may have questions, any number of questions, such as, who am I? How did I get here? Spiritually integrated arts means what exactly? What is a teaching center? Well, what is Centers for Spiritual Living? What is that? What does that even mean? Or New Thought, or religious science, or science of mind and spirit? You may have any number of questions about this specific community, about the parent organization, CSL, our philosophy, our teaching, our liberation theology. Any number of questions. Feel free to send an email. We look forward to connecting more and building our virtual community, our global community. And if you haven't connected yet on social media, feel free to do so. This is your invitation now. Also, did you know that all of our Sunday messages are archived on our YouTube channel? You can watch it anytime. Now, questions about anything, such as becoming a member. What does that mean? What does membership entail? And if you live somewhere far and already belong to a spiritual community, can you be a member of more than one? The simple answer is yes, you can. Just like you can shop at more than one grocery store, you can attend or be a member of more than one gym. We are building beloved community. So you can do both. You can be a member of both. You can be involved with both. That's what being in spiritual community means. So we welcome you. We invite you. We are so appreciative that you have found this community and that you have joined us today. We bless you. We love you. We welcome you. Live long and prosper. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of our Sunday message. Love you. Connect with you soon. Blessings.
Namaste and greetings. Welcome to the month of May, where we are discussing from good to great to grand. This month, as we explore the topic of moving from good to great to grand, we will highlight the process of both self-actualization and collective actualization. By exploring our inner landscape, which is the title of today's talk, we will take stock of, we will become more aware of where we are in this entire process. Where are we in our own process of self actualization? What values do we have? What values do we aspire to have and act from? And how can we begin to live our lives accessing, embodying those values in relevant, new, and powerful ways? As we begin to have greater clarity around who and what we are and the kinds of environments and relationships that we want to live and interact within, to live from, then we can begin to more consciously create those environments, those experiences, those relationships, those spaces. We create the opportunities because we're doing it for ourselves, but we're creating the opportunities for others to be able to do it as well. The impact of this process that we are engaged in expands not just our individual self actualization, but it expands into the collective experience, which will support our continued conscious support of a world that truly does work for all. And that world is empowered to express, to demonstrate, to show up, to be the very demonstration of what it means to live in a world that works for all in a way that is authentic, empowered, and truthful. So we begin this month by exploring the way in which we observe. How do we look at the world? How do we interact? What are we still curious about? What were we once curious about that we're no longer curious about? And what are we stepping into to have greater opportunity to discover these very essential elements in the process of self-actualization? This becomes our starting point as we move from the good to the great to the grand. Because it is by actively observing our own inner landscape as well as the outer, but it's by actively observing, actively engaging and being a part of our inner and outer landscapes where we gain greater insight, greater awareness, greater application of our thoughts, our emotions, our words, our beliefs, our entire mental equivalent. And curiosity, this desire to know, this desire to explore, fuels this desire that we have to explore and ask and ask and ask even more and more, to ask good questions and more, ask great questions and more, ask grand questions and more. Because it is in the asking, it is in the exploring, it is in the observation of what this entire process means, what this entire process looks like. It is precisely in that space that we learn to discover, to recover, to uncover various new aspects of our individual selves and our collective culture and societal selves. through this process, through this exploration, we explore, we feel, we recognize, and we reveal. We show up as our passions, our values, our strengths, even our weaknesses. We show up as all of it, vulnerably and transparently. And we fully embrace the process individually. We fully embrace the process collectively. It's not I, me, you, they. It's we. How we embrace this process collectively, thereby creating greater space, greater experiences, greater opportunities for our continued and continual evolution, which includes deeper, higher, more profound, and relevant understanding of this infinite life with its infinite possibilities that become our infinite probabilities, that become our infinite inevitabilities as they show up within us, as we express it, and thereby change the world. So when we talk about your or our inner landscape, what are we talking about? So if I were to ask you, how would you define landscape? What does that word, landscape, what does it mean? As a noun, it means whatever the visible features of a specific area, countryside, or land. It's often considered in terms of some form of aesthetic appeal, referencing, printing or computer or phone. Landscape is the format. Is it a vertical or a horizontal landscape? As a verb, to make a piece of land more attractive by altering the existing design, etc. As an adjective, of or in a format, same as the other one, for printed material, screen, the display. Is it wider, higher, etc.? Now, what does this have to do with any of us? What does this have to do? Because I don't horizontal myself. I don't, yeah, what does that have to do with any of us? Well, think about in terms of landscape is the internal topography. It is the climate. It is the atmosphere of our consciousness. See, we can have a lush and vibrant consciousness or a barren and desolate consciousness. We can have a consciousness that is rich with imagination and possibility and hope, or we can have a landscape that is dull, dry, empty, and void of. We can have an inner landscape that is so busy that we never pause because our mind is always racing. Our lives are always busy, frenzied. Or that inner landscape could be one such as an inner city, New York or wherever, where it's active in certain areas. It's busy in certain areas. There's partying in certain areas. And yet there are other areas where it's very serene. So we have options. We have the opportunity, like New York, to be in the busyness of Times Square, but to either walk, catch the train, or a taxi, go uptown a little north, and peruse Central Park with all its calm, peaceful places and moments. So when you look within, what do you see? What do you find within your own inner landscape, cityscape, seascape, dreamscape? All of them give us a view of how we perceive the world, how we perceive ourselves within the world, how we perceive others within the world. And let us not forget or somehow sidestep the understanding that an escape is in many ways also a scape. It is a specific viewpoint because when we escape the busyness of, we escape the lack and scarcity consciousness, we are changing our scenery, we are changing the view, we are changing the perspective. We are breaking free from the paradigm and the consciousness of lack and scarcity to have infinite, boundless abundance of creativity, of love, of joy. But it's important that we ask ourselves, when I am escaping, am I escaping in a life affirming or a life denying manner? See, you can escape, go on a retreat, which is life affirming. But if you become addicted to retreats, you become addicted to retreating, you become addicted to the escape, then a retreat has simply become the crack, the cocaine of consciousness that dulls the mind, dulls the senses, dulls the spirit, or our access to the spirit. It can't dull spirit. It dulls our access to spirit because we're using it as medication. We're using it as a getaway. I don't want to deal with this thing, so I will spiritually bypass. I don't want to deal with this, so I will metaphysical malpractice. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to face this. I don't want to have that conversation. So it's easier to escape into the land of it's all good because it's all God. It's just an illusion. That's not real anyway. Escape. Was it not too long ago that one of our talks back in March was don't go back to sleep? Don't become addicted to the escape, because then it is non-life affirming. It's life denying. So once again, our invitation is to be mindful of, well, what is my inner landscape? What is the inner terrain of my mental equivalence? Dr. Holmes invites, there is an inner life into which we may plunge, an inner consciousness in which we may bathe. As water purifies itself by flowing, so our inner realization of the flow of life through us purifies the stagnant pools. When we are in the flow to such a degree that we are the flow itself, we are constantly in a state of regeneration, renewal, purification. We are constantly in a state of resurrecting, rising anew from good to great to grand to whatever's next. And even when good, great, grand is not our experience, I may be in sad. Well, can I be in sad in a way, still, in a spiritually grounded way where I am still flowing, where the emotions flow, where I am not stagnant and holding on to the sadness, holding on to the anger, holding on to the grief, holding on to the fear in a way where it's not moving, it's not flowing? Or can I hold it gently, be present with it gently in a way where the energy is still, I still feel the sadness, but it's moving. I still feel the anger, but it's moving. I give it the space to still flow, to let the energy, to let the emotions, energy and motion, to let them move. I need not, quote unquote, cling to and hold on to. So be in the flow and become the flow of life itself. And then we're in a state of purification. We are always purifying, cleansing, baptizing ourselves anew, moment by moment. Dr. Holmes goes on to invite us. The road to self-discovery often calls for the clearing away of the underbrush of ignorance, of fear, superstition, and a sense of isolation which has made us feel that we are or were unworthy, unheld or supported, and lost. In the divine providence of good, salvation is unnecessary, but self-discovery is essential. We do not save that which was lost, because it can't be lost. We merely discover that which needs to be found. Pause. There's several things in here. So the road to self-discovery, clearing away the underbrush of ignorance, fear, superstition, the sense of isolation that makes us feel or has made us feel or is right now making us feel unworthy, unsupported, unloved, confused, lost. When we anthropomorphize spirit, we're engaging in superstition. When I say something like, what is spirit's highest good for me? I'm separating spirit from myself. Now, I know we do it for linguistic purposes, but it's important for me to check in and be mindful. When I'm saying that, am I saying it from a place of superstition where I am separating myself from spirit? Or do I say, what is my, since I am spirit incarnating as me, what is my, see, because I'm connecting, I'm realizing that there is no spirit outside of me that is the one determining what is spirit's highest will for my life. What is my highest will as divine magnificence incarnating? What is my highest will for my life? Moment by moment, while remaining open at the top. Because there is no the highest. If we're ever evolving, there is always more and more. So what is my highest desire, my highest will? Not what does spirit want me to do? What does spirit as me? Let's go there then. What does spirit as me want to do? See, we're invited to stop engaging in superstitious practices, ignorant practices, fear-based practices, etc., and start embodying, rather than faith in God, the faith of God. Rather than God's will as an external thing, my will, which must be God's will. But when I'm anchored to the awareness that what it is I must be, then I am automatically opening my mind, one mind, the mind that is God, and I'm stepping into that divine providence of good. I am entering into that place where I realize that I cannot be lost, And when he says we merely discover that which needs to be found, think of it this way. When we become conscious of our breath, we are discovering what needs to be found. That's why we do breath work in meditation. There's breath work in martial arts. There's breath work in a lot of things. Because the breath, it's already there. It's already happening. But we're so busy doing other things that it's almost as if we lose the breath. We lose sight of the breath. We lose awareness. We lose, quote unquote, conscious connectivity to the breath. So what we're doing is rediscovering. I know that the breath is there. Let me reconnect with it in a conscious manner. I know that spirit is there. Let me reconnect with it as the truth of my being. It's always there. Let me reconnect with love as the truth of my being. It's always there. Even when I feel sad, love is present. Even when I feel alone or lonely, the universe is present. The infinite all that is present. Even when I feel angry, peace is present. Let me rediscover the truth that it is present right here and right now, no matter what. So I need not look for it outside of myself. I find it right here. Physician, heal thyself. Metaphysician, heal thyself. Metaphysician, find thyself. In thyself, as thyself. Express thyself. For there is only that infinite self. As Meister Eckhart, I believe, Meister Eckhart said, between me and God, there is no between. Between me and God, there is no between. There is no space. There is no separation between. So, because there is no between. So, what we are doing is realizing that beneath, as it said in the other slide, beneath the underbrush, beneath years of piling on of soot and dirt and stuff, the treasure becomes buried. Beneath years of self-incrimination, the truth of ourselves becomes buried. Beneath years of criticism and judgment, the truth of ourselves becomes buried. Beneath years of domestication, indoctrination, alienation, the infinite truth of our being becomes buried. So we are invited to brush away all, as Bruce Lee said, our task isn't to add on and add on and add on. Our task is to remove all that is unnecessary to where only the truth remains. As Michelangelo said, I chip away, knowing that the angel within the marble is there, and I chip away everything that is not the angel until only the angel remains. We brush away all of the fear and all of the ignorance and all of the superstition and all of the indoctrination and domestication. Brush it all away till only the truth of our being. We are the universe incarnating itself until only that remains. And then we navigate life from that awareness. Dr. Holmes says, life waits upon our discovery of natural laws, our discovery of ourselves, and our discovery of our relationship to the great whole. This is about discovering. Electricity existed before it was, quote unquote, discovered. Aerodynamics, the laws of aerodynamics existed before there were planes or before things flew through the air. The law of buoyancy. The chemical compound of water existed before people even knew that molecules were a thing. Long before the periodic chart was developed, water was still made up of H2O. So life, spirit, source, the universe is discovering, as Carl Sagan said, you are the way that the universe knows itself. We are the way in which the universe as us is discovering itself as us, expressing itself as us, experiencing itself as us, individually, in relationship, and not just relationship person to person, but our relationship with the environment. All of this is about relationship, how God is relating to itself always and in all ways. So what do you do to discover yourself? What is your practice of searching, expressing, locating, uncovering the self that is your individualized expression, capital S self? Discover your divinity. We could easily say that. And divinity, that which is the divine, is incarnating itself as you, which makes it your individualized expression of the self, of the God self, of the universal self, of the. What do you do to discover that? Because it's easy to get lost in, I'm my name, I'm my skin color, I'm my gender, I'm my political affiliation, I am what my parents told me I am what society says I am. It's easy to get confused and lost in the underbrush of all of that versus, well, how do I find, search, know myself? And finding oneself is linguistic convenience because finding once, I'm right here. That which is God is right here. So I don't need to, quote unquote, find it. As the slide says, you aren't a $10 bill in last winter's coat. But there's all of that, as I said before, there's all of that cultural conditioning, all of the indoctrination that gets piled on and piled on. So this idea of finding yourself is actually returning to or connecting to the truth of yourself. Remembering who you were before the world got its hands on you. The who and what you are that is not defined by the indoctrination and the domestication. That's what we're doing. We're coming back to the who and what I am that is not defined by. That's what we mean by finding or returning to or discovering ourselves. Rumi says, and you? Will you begin that long journey into yourself? Will you? It's a call to action. Will you begin? Have you begun? If not, why not? If so, what does it mean? What does it look like? Are you willing to explore even deeper what it means to the journey of 1,000 miles within oneself? Begins with that first step, begins with one step. Amit Ray says, self-observation is the first step of inner unfolding. Do you observe you? Do you observe yourself as you interact with others? Do you observe yourself when you're eating, or are you on your phone? Do you observe yourself when you're engaged in gardening or cooking, just some regular everyday activity, bathing, brushing teeth? Do you observe yourself? What's going on in my mind? What am I thinking while brushing my teeth? Is my mind just on autopilot? Today is a day of misery. Today is a day of pain. Oh my goodness. Today is one day closer to, oh my, danger, danger. Oh, is that where my mind is while I'm brushing my teeth? On the doom and gloom of self observation. See, when we people watching is actually a self observation practice if we knew that is what it was. See, we think we're watching others and we're commenting in our mind or with whoever we're look. What, she actually came out the house wearing that? Aren't those pajamas? Oh my goodness. You know he ain't got no business with them open-toed sandals on. We think it's about them, but the self that is judging, the self that is observing. If I'm not mistaken, it was Nietzsche who said, to be mindful when you stare into the abyss. Because if you stare long enough, you will find that the abyss is staring back at you. When we are observing others, we are actually invited into the space of, I'm actually observing myself, observing others, when I practice it that way. And that opens us up to greater understanding of who and what we are. Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And this is why in the Matrix, the oracle tells Neo, Temet nosce, know thyself. The opportunity to know ourselves, and not just as based upon the programming of who we're told that we are, but the self that is the truth of us, the self that is ever purifying, rising, evolving. Talking about that self, the divine self, because that is the eternal self. The other stuff changes in what word do I want to use? It changes in ways within the confines of time and space. Meaning, there is a point where we are born, and there's a point where we die. Yet the true self has never been born and can never die. And yet, even that self, because that self is still incarnating as this self, even that which is ever, never changing is still ever evolving. Therefore, it too is changing. So we may say that God doesn't change, but it has to. Because if God is that rose bush, then every bloom of the rose is God changing from seed to rose bloom, from bee to honey, from raindrop to snowflake. So that which spirit is experiencing, expressing change in the relative, but not necessarily the quote unquote absolute. meaning in the absolute, it doesn't experience time, death, lack, and limitation. But when the absolute is incarnating and as the relative, then it does experience. So it's both and. Our invitation is, how do I practice knowing myself both as relative and as absolute? Mary O'Malley says true alchemy is about transforming unconsciousness into consciousness. And curiosity is where the magic happens. Transforming unconsciousness into consciousness. Transforming from the space of the, I don't know what makes that, and then there's boom, and then there's rain. I don't know why I don't even know if it's called rain. I just said that and I didn't mean to say it because I don't know what it is. We're unconscious, we're unaware. We're in a space of ignorance to a certain degree, meaning the lack of knowledge, the lack of awareness. And yet we are curious enough to step into the ever moving consciousness of, ever shifting consciousness of, the without ending, the infinite and eternal opportunity to learn more, be more, experience more, become more. This is why the I am that I am is an incomplete statement. As several Jewish friends have expressed to me, the passage I am that I am is more accurately translated as I am that I am ever becoming more of. We are invited into a space of ever more and ever more. Ever more and ever more. And I know most of us are familiar with this Marianne Williamson quote. And I want us to focus on that last line: as we liberate others, as we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. As we do the work of self-awareness, self-actualization, our presence gives others permission to awaken as well, to purify as well, to resurrect as well, to go from good to great to grand as well. Now, I get the linguistic convenience of everything that she's saying, but I do want to remix. So keep that in mind. There's going to be a remix. Keep that in mind. So what is your inner landscape? What is your mental equivalent? How self-aware are you right now? Breathe. So that remix, remember? You don't remember? Okay, let's go back for a second. Come on. Just so we're all on the same page. Second paragraph. You are a child of God. That's the remix, okay? You are a child of God. Okay? So like I said before, I get the linguistic convenience of what she's saying, but let's go back and focus. As I said, what is your mental equivalent? Okay. Now let's go on. Come on, you're still with me. Come on. The science of mind and spirit reminds us that we are far more than simply children of God. Rather, we are the living embodiment of, the individualized expression of, and incarnations of God. We are reminded to not simply have faith in God, but to have the faith of God. This is what it means to move from good to great to grand. This is the self that we are discovering or remembering or reconnecting to, or whatever word works for you. This is the self, the true self. And how good it is to know that even if we cannot find it, or we feel like we cannot find it, it is already there, and we're able to create it. We're able to create the space where we experience it. So we're able to create the good, even when we feel like we cannot find it. We feel like we cannot find equity, we can create it. We feel like we cannot find justice, we can create it. We have the capacity, because of who and what we are, the true self, and our ability to access the law of mind and action and the entirety of the creative process. We are able to create a world that truly works for all, that is equitable, just, loving, peaceful, collaborative, and cooperative, with a mental equivalent, a global mental equivalent of oneness, of harmony, of unity, and of community. We can create it. This week's affirmation, our declaration, I will say it first, and if it resonates with you, say it with me on the second go round. I am open and curious as I explore my own inner landscape. Together. I am open and curious as I explore my own inner landscape. So it is. This week's journal questions are prompts and the questions for the Thursday night discussion group. As you pay attention to your own inner landscape, pay attention to the various things that begin to rise to the surface. You're going to find things you don't necessarily like. When excavating to, get to that vase from the 19th, 18th, whatever, BC, there's gonna be some bugs and stuff in the dirt. There's gonna be some, what is that, fossilized doo-doo? Oh, that's nasty. There's going to be some things that rise to the surface. Pay attention to them. Number 2, how can you begin to cultivate curiosity in your daily life in a way that serves to move you into a more authentic expression of yourself? What kinds of things are you curious to know more about? Curious to know more about the samurai of Japan? Curious to know more about linguistics, quantum physics, the life and times of Shirley Chisholm? What kinds of things are you curious to know more about? And go explore them. Number 3, how can your own self-discovery impact not only yourself, but the world around you? How does you moving from good to great to grand, how does that, you doing that, change and impact everything around you? not just your individual relationships of the people closest to you, but even beyond that. How does your self realization, self actualization impact the world? And then lastly, what are three practices that you are willing to commit to engaging in this month that will encourage and foster greater self discovery, greater self awareness, and alchemical, transformative changes? Breathe. Simply entering into that space of infinite awareness, knowing that there is no space between God and myself. There is no between me and God. There is only that which is God, and that which God is incarnating as me. Just as the air that I am breathing, the air in the air around me, there's no space between. And even when we talk in terms of quantum physics and we say the vast majority of matter is actually empty space. But is that empty space not still filled with that which is spirit? So the empty space may not be filled with what you call quantum particles, but that space is not empty any more than the space between my hands is empty. It's filled with air, it's filled with vibration, it's filled with molecules and atoms and energy. Empty space is full. The glass half full, the glass fully full. Part of it's filled with what we may call water, but even that space above the water that we call empty space is still filled with that which is the energetic vibration of life, quantum particles and waves, atoms and molecules, protons, electrons, and neutrons. It is full. And so I breathe, recognizing the fullness of God is always present and presenting itself in, through, and as everything, always, and in all ways. And so I anchor right now with this thing called prayer, recognizing that what is true for me, all of these words that I am saying, true for me and true for all, the infinite all that is, for everyone watching, live or later, the infinite all that is fully present right where everyone is, as everyone. That means everyone is fully love, fully joy, fully power, fully peace, fully sacred and divine, fully, not in part, not in pieces, not broken. And yet there's no need to deny the emotions, the feelings. We can feel brokenness, loneliness. We can feel that deeply, and also know that we are intimately connected with 15 trillion people on the face of this planet. We are never truly alone. And we have the opportunity, we have the energy, we have the power to create relationships, connections that are meaningful, to create a world that works for all. And in that world that works for all, I have friends and family and community that are life affirming, supportive, nurturing, emotionally intelligent, spiritually intelligent. And what is true for me is true for all. And the law says yes. So I know that this word is already done, it is already answered. The curiosity is already steeped and primed to rediscover, to renew, to clear away the underbrush of anything that would obstruct my insight or eyesight to the truth of my being. I can see clearly now. I know who and what I am. The law says yes. It's already done. And so it is. So it is. Much love and appreciation, everyone. See you over in the Zoom room today. If I'm not mistaken, next week we won't be meeting because it's Mother's Day and I'm speaking somewhere else and then doing their after service fellowship. So see you in our Zoom room in a few minutes.